The people that we love are going to sometimes get on our nerves. That's just a part of relationship and of being close with others. And even though it's normal, what can end up happening is we let that irritation turn into something bigger and create a bigger disconnection. So we're going to dive into what's happening and what you can do about it in this video. I'm Stacy Rocklein, and I'm on a mission to eradicate loneliness. And it doesn't seem like a small frustration could cause loneliness, but actually it can snowball into a bigger problem that really creates loneliness because you've introduced too much conflict into the relationship. What happens when we get irritated? And I don't mean big things. I'm just like, those little things that just bug you that the other person is doing. We have a way we want the world to be. We have our own desires. We want the environment to be a certain way, and we want other people to behave a certain way. And there's nothing wrong with having those desires. It's that they can slip into some right-wrong thinking, like my way is the right way and their way is the wrong way, into some shoulds and supposed tos. They should be doing this. They're supposed to be behaving this way. It's supposed to look like this. And as soon as we end up in that situation, we have turned a desire into an expectation of other people. And when they fall short of it, we get disappointed. We get irritated. We get pissed off even. This happens to me sometimes in my household. And here's how. I like a tidy place. I just like people to pick their stuff up. It just it makes me feel better. And it makes me feel way worse when it's messy. But I live with someone who's kind of messy. And I let my desire for tidiness turn into an expectation that everybody else should keep it tidy also. And when that doesn't happen, I get frustrated. And when this happens, I can go two different pathways to communicate with the person. Whenever I just go, hey, could you please pick this up? They are 100% of the time cooperative and agreeable, and they do it right away. Everything is great. I get what I want. Everything's cool between us. If I let my frustration, that's this path, right? If I let my frustration get the best of me, I might, instead of asking nicely, just demand that they put it away or pick it up. And I am not as polite. And then when I do that, the other person is not as polite in the process. They might even pick it up, but do it a little rougher and with a curt tone of voice and some eye rolls. And now there's tension between us. And if that tension compounds because now we're tense and then another incident happens, another little frustration, and that compounds, this is turning into more and more conflict between us. And then it's harder and harder for us to get back into communion with each other. And so that little thing can turn into loneliness because when we're really disconnected, like in a chronic, low-level tension way, each person is going to feel alone. So simply, we don't have to take I call it the detour, because I'm still going to end up having to ask the person to clean up their stuff, to have things the way I want. And there is nothing wrong with me wanting something a certain way. And there's nothing wrong with me asking for someone to help me have it a certain way. That's perfectly okay. We can have desires. And I can just go right to asking nicely and them being agreeable and picking it up. Or I can feel frustrated because my expectation hasn't been met. And then I go on this little irritated negative detour, and I end up back still at the place where I'm going to have to make that request of them. So how do I keep myself off of the detour? Because that keeps us out of tension zone. This is simple, but not necessarily easy. The first thing I have to do is notice my frustration. And that's actually where I usually get hung up. It's like I've already acted, like I've already demanded that they go do something. I've barked an order, and I already let my action happen before I noticed the frustration. So the first thing I have to do is notice the frustration. Then I have to remind myself, hey, fixable problem. Nothing to worry about. All I have to do is ask nicely and this can be fixed. As soon as I think fixable problem, my frustration goes way down. And then it's like, oh yeah, this is just my expectation. And if I want help for it or with it, I need to ask nicely. So as soon as I figure out that I'm dealing with a fixable problem with an easy solution and it brings my frustration down, I have a more positive outlook, and then I can take action on the solution, which is to ask for help. I guess there are other solutions, but that's the one that I've been using. So, like I said, first step, a little bit challenging, but it's just a skill. So you just keep practicing. Like if you have a little bit of like bickering happening in your relationship, then what does frustration feel like to you? Where do you notice it? How can you catch it faster? And one thing that also helps me when I am trying to catch my frustration and my irritation, and it's something that I teach in most of my online classes, is to strip away the story from the facts. Because usually what's upsetting us is the story anyway. The fact is the small, simple, solvable problem. So here in this particular case, fact, he made a mess. Story, I have asked him 20 million times not to leave a mess when he goes to school or whatever it is before he leaves the house. It's like he doesn't even care about what I care about. He's not even listening to me. He's disrespectful. That's just story. My story is affecting how I feel in the situation. When I can stop and go, okay, what are the facts? Here's a mess we had to deal with. Everything settles down a little bit, and then I can communicate in a respectful way, and then I get the result that I want, and there's no tension between us. So it's a simple thing to do, but it makes a big difference, because when we communicate well over something that is just a little irritation, then we feel better because we bring our frustration down. The other person feels better. They feel respected. Everybody's more likely to cooperate with each other because there's been a kind exchange, even though there was something that needs to be fixed. And then we didn't create that little tension, which then could possibly snowball into something else. So it makes a huge difference that we manage all of these little irritations, which are totally going to happen. People are going to bug us because we have different expectations. So start at the first step and just practice noticing. And then what are the facts that you have to deal with? If you're just annoyed, it's probably a small problem that you can solve pretty easily with a simple request. And then you get to avoid that whole little detour that is going to result in a bigger disconnection. Now, if you would like some help with arguments, if you struggle with that, you can also pick up my top 10 strategies for successful disagreements with the link that I'm going to leave. And I wish you more reconnections, more maintained connections, despite the fact that you are going to get irritated and frustrated and annoyed with the people that you care about. When you have strategies, then that's not something that's going to become a hindrance. Okay, I will see you next time.